It didn't drop, not plop, not drip. It slipped. It didn't run or dash. It creaked. A tear. Or tears. In the midst of the night's silence, down my flushed, tender cheeks. It was a collection of days during the time that I went to St. Mary's Catholic Elementary School in Toronto that my day ended this way. Under the covers of my heavy wool blanket, I let uncountable beads of salty water trail my face, then absorb into the pillow which my parents had not yet gotten covers for. Wipe them away, my mother would say, in our native tongue. They know not what they do. But these biblical words that echoed from the mattress beneath mine did not convince me of my oppressor's oblivion. I rested every night in a bunk bed containing my family of 4, so close that I could sense their body heat radiate, feel their body twist and turn, and hear their lungs breathe. Yet we were so far in our dreams. For hours on end, we would separate, and I could not experience the assumed fantastical adventures of their minds, as they could not experience the consuming travels of mine. Often, I just rewatched the humiliating episodes that presented themselves to me during the day. The only stretch of time that I may categorize as a daily delight was maybe that of recess. It was then that I felt the joy of imagination, rather than the despair of it. It was then that I would venture to the sandpit with my friends in the younger grade, digging for the remains of a dinosaur, or traveling to a different galactic portal by touching the hollows of trees. Portals where I could no longer watch and envy the girls my age, hurtle in a circle with the boys and talk. Talk, talk, talk. Laugh. I wondered if it was ever at the occasion of gossip containing my name. I wondered why I annoyed them so much. I wondered if it was because I didn't look like them, talk like them, dress like them. I wished that I looked like them, talked like them, and dressed like them. Canada, the home of the so-called kind, was discovered to be quite cruel to the unfamiliar and new. Canada was the home of the girls who watered the drying trails ingrained in my cheek, and so Canada, I thought, would never be the home of the girl who wiped them away while her mother said, "They know not what they do." Oblivion should not be claimed in defense of a second-grade class to combat their offenses to the outlier, just as insanity should not be declared at every murderer's trial. Yet I thought that maybe they could not see my eyes turn to glass as they ravished my ears with cruel names, or that they were not aware of my proximity when they made fun of me to the boys, or that they had actually imagined that I had been kicking them under the table and therefore rightfully reported me to the teacher. When indeed both my feet were hooked to the legs of my own plastic chair. I allowed my ears to pry into their often hateful conversations. Porcupine, home, she simplified, assuring that I, the foreigner, would understand her message. So to home I, the porcupine, would go, pulling the sleeves of my sweater over my infamously hairy Middle Eastern arms. I remember once I actually fought back, yelling, "Oh, I can hear you, you know." Wow, so much bravery. I waxed my arms now. "You knew that I was in here, why would you say that?" Wow, so much power and so much heart. I hate my curly hair now. They laughed. So to home the porcupine would go, run, dash, then creep into her bed and retreat, onto the pillow without a cover, as my mother said in her native tongue, "They know not what they do." They won. I know because as I stand here today, I know that I would like to see these girls today, them or interrogate their reasons behind tormenting me in the second grade. Instead, to show them that I now look like them, talk like them, dress like them. I strived for so long to look like them, talk like them, and dress like them. I hope that they would be proud that I now look like them, talk like them, and dress like them. I hope that they would enjoy my company now that my foundation is 2 shades too light, my skin hairless, my hair straightened at every prospect of a free 3 hours, and the way I dress, common. They know not what they still do to me, how I'm sure their torments still feed into how I view myself in my now 18-year-old mind, though the trails down my cheek are now dry. When I was growing up in Toronto, I don't recall there being much support for students who were getting bullied by their classmates or recovering from it for that matter. And if there was, I would have never thought my experience qualified. It was around 2011 that I really felt that this changed, that there began a slow transition from a culture which esteems the bullied to one that acknowledges their wrongdoings and even looks to see if they are suffering as well. However, as I stand here today, I do want to make the unfortunate statement that somewhere along the way, as we made and are still making a journey to a supportive environment for all, as we valiantly try to protect and comfort those who are truly suffering from an oppressor, we took a wrong turn, began to blur the lines between personal attacks and controversial opinions. We began to filter our language within the classroom in fear of offending somebody in it, or sounding insensitive, privileged, misogynistic, racist, homophobic, or xenophobic. I must dispute this notion with a theoretical question. Where is a better place to share an unpopular opinion or question and criticize a common idea than in an academic institution? Ridley prides itself on the abundance of diversity seen in our student population. In fact, I believe it is one of the greatest assets that going to a school like Ridley can grant you. But at its foundation, why is it that we value diversity in education so much? At its core, it must be the diversity of thought that comes with it. The assumed sharing, immersing effect of various cultures and ideologies in one location. So why has there been this wave of self-limitation regarding what is seemingly appropriate to say in a classroom? The truth is discovered through discussion. Though everyone has an equal right under Canada's Charter of Rights and Freedoms, Section 2, to have freedom of religion, expression, thought, belief, peaceful assembly, and association, that does not equate that all opinions are equally true, for that would be a logical fallacy, impossible. Objective topics should not be talked about as if they are subjective, and by silencing one side of any debate, you risk the fact that you may be silencing the truth. I know that I'm talking a little abstractly, so allow me to give you an example. Religion. Religion is talked about as though it is a subjective topic, as if it is a buffet where all the food is equally valid and real. However, plainly that cannot be true, as most religions are fundamentally different, but many seem superficially the same. You have the freedom to pick and choose and to express it, of course, but at the end of the day, there is a rudimentary truth. Either one religion is true or none are. Which is why I welcome any criticism to my religion, and I hope that others who have one, or those who believe strongly in atheism, would too. If you want to respectfully criticize Christianity in a classroom, do it. If you want to respectfully criticize Islam in a classroom, do it. If you want to respectfully criticize the Liberal Party of Canada in a classroom, do it. If you want to respectfully criticize any popular movement, feminism even, for example, do it. If anything is offensive, it is the notion that these ideologies or movements are so fragile, so baseless, that they cannot sustain or combat themselves through criticism, debate, and discussion. I would hope that we are a generation that does not need to be coddled at every instance of something offensive. Holding back an educated opinion for fear of defamation, alienation, and slander is the worst thing that could possibly happen to our progression as a human race. To the person who is offended, which I cannot lie, I have fallen into that category before. That's offensive. Check your privilege, and I'm drinking your white tears, which are all things I've heard in classrooms before, are not valid arguments. If you believe so strongly in your opinion, you should have the knowledge and foundation to rebuttal and defend your stance. Movement, religion, or race, rather than throwing a red herring or straw man to silence. Logically, wouldn't you rather a bad opinion be shared, proven wrong, and resolved, rather than for it to thrive in the mind of the person? To the person who fears being offensive, which again, I have fallen into that category many times, falling into that category right now, speak your mind. I believe in your ability to determine the difference between mockery or bullying and constructive criticism or genuine opinions. Will you just sit in a classroom as if you are furniture, unmoving, unchanging? Or are you going to contribute intellectually to the conversation? Honestly, the time I stop talking in a classroom is the same time that I begin getting annoyed by my own voice, which is probably double the time it takes somebody else to do the same. Sorry, but I'm not sorry. To clarify, this is not a call to arms for those who wait for the opportunity to be insolent and disrespectful at the expense of someone's personality or morality. Just as much as I hate bullying, I cherish the freedom to speak, as I am exercising it right now in a way that I could never have done back home. This is why I am thankful to be Canadian, thankful to be at Ridley, and thankful to have all of you as my audience today listening to my speech. Thank you.